This is Swiss and Chips, your British guide to Switzerland. Hello, you're listening to Swiss and Chips, and it's just me, Jo, today. I've got a special episode for you because today I had my interview for my Swiss citizenship application. I just left the office where they carry out these interviews, and I'm standing close to the Swiss Parliament building actually to record this while it's still fresh in my mind. For those of you who listen regularly to our podcast, you know that Simon is Swiss, I'm British, and I've lived in Switzerland for 11 years. And that means since last year, I was eligible to apply to become Swiss, which I did. There are some previous episodes of this sort of special part of our Swiss and Chips podcast, which detail all of the previous steps I've had to go through to try and become Swiss. So if you go to our website, swissandchips.com, and look for the tag Becoming Swiss, you'll find all of those episodes there, which explain in detail what I've had to do so far. So today was a really big day, and I was quite nervous about it, to be honest. If you live in Switzerland, you may have read many of the horror stories about what people who have tried to become Swiss have gone through, the difficult conversations, the big panels. People have been refused citizenship on grounds of wearing tracksuits, for example. That was an infamous case that was in the Swiss newspapers. So I think I had good reason to be a little bit anxious about what might occur today. However, the good news is I really didn't need to be. The man who's been handling all of my documents so far was extremely friendly. He made lots of jokes. He really tried to put me at ease. And I was just sitting in an office talking to him, basically. There was no panel of people interviewing. The thing is, in Switzerland, the process varies quite widely, I would say, depending on where you live, which canton, which commune, which city. So the experience can be quite different. But my experience was refreshingly positive. He asked a lot of questions to do with my CV, my education, the jobs I'd had. We went through everything that was in my application so far and double-checked all of the details. He wanted to know about my job, how much I earn, how much I pay in rent, if I have any debts, if I own any property. Lots of questions like this, really, because there are certain conditions that need to be fulfilled. You need to have enough money to live in Switzerland and be able to pay your bills and so on. So this part of the conversation was quite easy, but it was very detailed. And we also spoke in High German. He asked me at the beginning if I can speak Mundart, Swiss German dialect. I can understand this quite well, but I really wanted to do the conversation in High German to make sure that I could answer the questions properly and not make a silly mistake on the basis of understanding. But this wasn't a problem at all. So we spoke in High German. He asked me a lot of questions about my family, where I live, and sort of formalities like this. I was expecting to be asked some questions about naming Swiss mountains or perhaps how federalism works. But this had already been covered in the citizenship test, which I took last year. That's a multiple choice test, basically, which you sit down and fill out on a form, which I passed last year. So none of those kind of questions came up in the conversation at all, which wasn't what I expected from what I'd heard from other people. He asked me if I was in an association, which I'm not, which I thought might be a problem, but it seems it wasn't. He wanted to know if I have contact with Swiss people, what kind of things I do with my spare time, and how I get to know people in Switzerland, things like that. So I had lots to say there. So that was all good. And then he asked me what my motivations were for becoming Swiss. And we had quite a detailed discussion there about why I want to become Swiss. Something that surprised me a little bit was he asked me if I accept that our daughter will have to go to swimming lessons and have to attend school in Switzerland, which I do. So they're really trying to explore that you understand what the implications are of being a Swiss citizen. So that was quite interesting. We talked at length about life in Switzerland and how I find it here and what I do in my job and how I find it being part of a Swiss family nowadays, what my relationship is with the UK if I would ever want to go back. And all in all, it took almost 2 hours for talking about these questions and going through my application and making sure that he understood everything about my education and what I do in my job and so on. So it was a really interesting and positive experience. It was very different to what I had expected. He explained how long the process will take, which is quite a long time. It seems that I won't get the final result until in about a year and a half's time, because citizenship in Switzerland happens on 3 levels: in the commune, at the local place where you live, in the canton, and then on the federal level as well. And at each stage, the responsible people look at your application and make sure everything is in order, and then pass it on to the next stage, and then it comes back. So yeah, it was an exciting day. It was very interesting. And if you're applying to become Swiss in Bern, I would say that you don't have anything to fear. Don't be scared by the reports that you've seen in newspapers. It's really a very positive experience. And if you've lived here for 10 years in Switzerland, I think you'll have a lot to say about why you want to stay. So fingers crossed that I will soon have something else to report back on my application procedure. And when we do, I'll make another episode of this podcast and we'll let you know how the process goes. Thanks for listening.